Hello, you guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here with me. I am really excited about tonight. It's going to be just a hangout. We're going to have some fun. I actually got the idea from, there's like a political commentator, her first name is Brett, but she does like in the comment section. And it's really interesting to hear from other people. So I thought we could do that together. And in a second, I'm going to bring up the two best people I could think to do that with. But first, I want to say hello to you guys. So, hey, Salmonella. Hey, Ashley Oaks. Crime Sleuthin. Hello, Lynn. Oh, yes. Carol freaking Claus. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that more than you know. Thank you. Hey, Seven of Us. J Bro. Melinda. Amber Love Reigns. Thank you guys for being here. Oh, also, hey, Inspector Gadget, Purple People. At the top, you'll see a link pinned for an Etsy shop, and that is from the shirt I'm wearing. One of the viewers sent it to me, and she has a little Etsy store, so I didn't want to wear it and not pin her link. She didn't give it to me to do that. That's just something that I wanted to do. So you guys should go check that out. Hey, Magenta. Let's see. Hey, K-Braze. They're starting to run together already. Hey, Hippie Chick, Amelia. Hello, Maria. Thank you guys for being here. I know I already said that. It starts to go where you're reading through chat and I'm like, have I already said hello to this person, to that person? Kind of get lost. Hey, Jane Doe. Hey, Elizabeth, Pointer Lover, Anaphylaxis. Anybody else I missed? Tonka Girl, Punksy. Thank you guys for being here. And before, one last thing, there have been some really great lives tonight. I'm going to share those channels. So Melissa did one, Criminality, and Mallory. And then, of course, I'm going to drop the panel guests. And then mods, if you don't care, maybe you can just drop them with the Nightbot. You'll see their command in just a second. So Criminality, Mallory, and then Jenn and Crime Curious. So next week, Taylor Shabusiness trial starts, and Jenn is going to be covering that heavily. And I'm really excited. We're going to follow along here too, but she's going to be streaming it. So check out those links. Hey, Corky. Hey, you guys. And let me bring you guys up. Hold on. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Hi. Hello.
Oh, you changed your name. I was waiting to take the comment off the
I did when I first joined. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I want to hear from you. I've been talking.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I surprised you by changing my name to Cash Belly Money Sock.
When I first brought her up a minute ago, yeah, I saw Cash Belly Money Sock. It was pretty funny. Oh, you missed Melissa's live. Hey, Angel. Hey, you guys. I was a member, but have not renewed. Anyone going to CrimeCon this year? That would be awesome. I'm not going, but I would love to. Oh, Aries.
Where is it going to be this year?
Orlando.
I don't know.
Oh, hell no, I'm not going. You couldn't pay me to go to Orlando.
Hey, Dawn. Hey,
I mean, it's like an hour and a half from me. No, it's hot there. Like this heat that has hit my part of Florida is disrespectful enough. I'm not dragging my old ass to Orlando.
Well, okay, so Petunia wants to know, when does Shabusiness start? And I will ask you, Jenn, what are your plans? How is this going to work?
Okay, so today she was declared competent this morning. Okay, they finished up the hearing for her competency. She was declared competent to stand trial. And then at 1 p.m., is when jury selection was scheduled to begin. Now, obviously, they don't broadcast jury selection. Some states do, but Wisconsin does not. And so Court TV has it scheduled for 9:30 a.m. on July 24th. And so that they would know if a jury has been seated for them to go ahead and schedule that, but we're going to play it by ear. I'm going to also schedule it at the same time. If I'm wrong and a jury hasn't been seated yet, then we'll come back when the jury has been seated and opening statements begin. But I think that because I just haven't looked into it because I was researching Florida stand your ground laws. They're actually not that complicated. And but I understand now what's going on with Ashley Benefield. So I educated myself today. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Boone. Let me update y'all about Boone.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know why she wasn't at the last one, but she was at this pretrial conference. And if you look on her docket, it does say correspondence. Okay. But nothing is there. It's just like an acknowledgement. Okay. It's a letter of acknowledgement of receipt. And so Sarah, what happened is they do have a forensic psychologist that they are trying to use, right? But JAC, which I never remember what that means. It's alternative counsel, but I can't remember what the J stands for. What is it, Jen?
I think it's Judicial Advisory Council.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
I'll double check.
They're not wanting to pay this forensic psychologist. So there will be a hearing for that in September. And her trial has been pushed to October. But at the very end, Sarah Boone got to speak, and she busted out a letter to Judge Wooten and said that she didn't understand why the previous letter had not been uploaded to the website, but this is a revised edition of the previous letter. And he scanned it right then, and I'm waiting for it to be uploaded. So keep your eyes peeled for a dramatic reading, because I'm sure she's upset. And I have to say, you guys, just real quick before we get started, I think I'm going to request her jail records just to see the visitation log and call log, because I'm very curious if there is any merit to her claims. I mean, she's kept meticulous records about how many calls she's put out, had returned, et cetera, the visitations and stuff like that. And look, I agree that Sarah Boone is guilty. She should be punished, but she has the right to a fair trial, and she also has the right to effective assistance of counsel. And I feel like she might be maybe not 100% accurate, but I'm starting to lean more to like the 55 to 60% range about her lack of communication with Bankowitz. And I'm curious about it because he wanted off the case, and the judge said, no. And I wouldn't want an attorney after he tried to be off of my case. I would be like, yes. I don't give her. I mean, she has been in jail since February of 2020 for this. This has been trying to go to court now for 3 years. If they push it, if it doesn't go to trial in October and they push it to November, that's when it was originally scheduled, November of 2022. It'll be a full year that they have continued it. 3 years is a long time to await trial if you're not declared incompetent and you have to go through competency camp. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Lori Vallow. You were competent though, weren't you? Jackass. All right. That's all I wanted to say.
So I wasn't even close. Well, I guess I was a little close. So the JAC is Justice Administrative Commission.
Justice Administrative Commission. That's where that's where indigent. That's what happens when you have what do you call that? Court-appointed attorney. All the money goes through there, right?
I think so.
That's how they get paid. And
That
also
makes sense.
yesterday, affirmative defense is what a stand your ground is, a not guilty by reason of insanity. That's the word I couldn't think of right before I fell asleep last night. I remembered it's affirmative defense.
I do
Right
that.
before you fell asleep. Angelina, I
Mhm.
wish I could go too. It always looks like so much fun. Have you guys ever been to CrimeCon?
No.
No, it's mad expensive.
Right. Hey,
Yeah, it is pretty
Idaho.
expensive.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's see. We're going to go ahead and start with this. It's like laid back. We're just going to, have fun and talk about what we see. I thought it was fitting. First is Jennifer Coffindaffer. A lot of people have their opinions on her, especially from this case. I've seen many creators like really talking bad about her because she doesn't at all play into that Brian Kohberger, could be innocent. There's not enough evidence stuff. She's always really, like on the opposite end of that, which is kind of interesting. But so she says Monday is a big deal in the Idaho 4 case. It's the deadline for the defense to file an alibi. This will be a 3-day poll. I want to know what you think and why. Will Brian Kohberger, A, stand silent again? In other words, not file a response at all. B, file an alibi that would include his whereabouts and corroborating facts. C, ask for more time, or D, issue a response saying his alibi is moot because he is challenging the grand jury true bill. What do you guys think? I wanted to hear what you thought about this. Let me make it a little bigger too so you can see it better.
Ooh, I don't think he'll stand silent. Let me look. Let's see. I think he's going to either do C or D.
I'm thinking C.
Ask for more
I think
time.
he's going to ask for more time.
He's either going to ask for, she's either going to ask for more time, or she is going to say it doesn't matter because we're challenging the true bill. So we don't have to tell you where he was because we don't even think he should be indicted. I think that it's either C or D. That's my vote.
Interesting. Hey, Legendary. All right, let me vote for one and see if it'll tell us like what.
Okay.
What it's looking like. We'll do C because
right.
both of you guys. Oh wow! Look, 44% says stand silent again. Wow. But didn't he already claim he had an alibi, or am I wrong? Am I mixing that up with
boy, I can't even remember now because so many things come out and then you're like, is it that right? And then you go investigate the one thing and the 87 new things come out. So I just said, F it, I'm going to wait for the trial.
And you never know what's true and what's not because there's
exactly.
I think that's the thing to do is wait for official sources.
Yeah.
So Lolo, I hope your mom's okay. Sorry, Jen.
Oh yes, Lolo. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Oh. I can't imagine that he's going to stand silent. They're challenging the true bill to begin with, so I don't think he can stand silent right now.
Right. Okay. So that's
They're saying the indictment is no good.
Right. C, ask for more time was the next most popular. Then issue a response saying his alibi is moot, and then file an alibi. So first we have someone who says his lawyer will probably advise him to do that. To do what, buddy? What do you mean?
Which one? Did you pick one?
No, we just said that. Then we have every state is different, but it seems early in the process to have to file an alibi. If he did it, which I believe he did, filing a false alibi is a good way to seal your fate. Better to just try and impeach every prosecution witness and evidence. Don't know Idaho law on D. Hold on, let me keep going. He will drag this out as long as possible. See, I totally disagree, you guys, because he has not waived. Oh, did you see? So remember, we had talked about this some, like if he asks for a stay, does that waive his right? And the prosecution is saying, yes, you need to choose. Do you want to waive your right to a fair trial, or
no, babe. You never waive your right to a fair trial, a speedy trial. You always want to have a speedy.
Yes. I was going to waive my right to a fair trial.
next time anybody asks you anything, you're going to stand silent
Okay.
and text me,
Yeah, Jen. Oh my
and
God.
I will get you an attorney.
That is hilarious. But no, yeah, the prosecution says that he has to either waive his right to the speedy trial or, request this stay, but he can't.
No, he cannot do both. You can't say wait and hurry up at the same time. It doesn't work like that. It's a bit like pushing the gas pedal and the brake at the same time.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking about Sarah Boone. She's so upset that her case has garnered so much attention and that everybody knows all of her business. And yet one of her chief complaints is that they didn't post her a recent letter, to the public. It's like, well, which one do you want?
What Sarah, I think, is starting to realize is that social media is a double-edged sword, right? Publicity is a double-edged sword. I think somebody is counseling her and being like, look, if you're being treated unfairly, the more people that see it, the better. So that's probably why she is pushing to have her letter published. Somebody's helping her.
And then wasn't she also complaining about social media and stuff
Yes.
like that?
Yes, but somebody is helping her. That's how she knows that it wasn't uploaded. Do you think that they give... Sarah Boone doesn't even look like she's been getting access to shampoo. Do you think they're giving her access to the web so she can look up her case file? No. Somebody's helping her. And she's got somebody on the outside calling too. Bankowitz.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, she's got somebody helping her.
Okay. Let's see. Someone says, I bet his alibi is he's asleep at home. He'll probably stand silent again just to aggravate the prosecution. I also have Brian Koberger's Innocent Facebook group pulled up. I want to look over there too for a minute in a second. But
yeah, I don't think that he's going to stand silent. I think that was a one-time deal because he had just been indicted. And that's probably the best play in that scenario, but I don't think he's going to stand silent. Ann Taylor came to play. She's already challenging everything, including, which is a good, smart move. I'm going to have to give credit where credit's due. Usually people wait until the CV, curriculum vitae or whatever it is that it stands for, when they're proffering to see if a witness can be proffered as an expert witness. They usually wait till trial for that, right? But she's already trying to get a hold of their records to see what kind of training they had for everybody that, was on the scene collecting evidence and et cetera, et cetera. She wants to know all the things. I think if she's gone as far as to challenge the true bill, she's not going to stand silent. I think that it's either going to be a request for more time, or like I said, she's going to argue that the indictment isn't valid in the first place, so they don't have to provide an alibi right now. Do you know what I mean?
I could see her doing that. I really could.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is an interesting tweet, and I want to see the responses to this, to your point. But first, Squeaky Will says, Letitia loved to write letters to the judge too. People who've never been in trouble with the law or know how the court system works fail to realize that you can't be pen pals with the judge.
No, you cannot be pen pals, and Judge Wooten is tired of her. When I go live tomorrow, before I talk about show business, I will play you guys her hearing. And you just need to hear the exasperation in Judge Wooten's voice. Like, he's over it with this whole thing. He don't want to deal with her. He doesn't want to deal with this case. He's done. And I kind of don't blame him. I don't blame him. Like, I don't know who's putting money on her books, but she's running through that paper. You might want to just advise her to slow her roll.
Yeah, didn't he say something to the effect of, like, I have other business to take care of? We're done now?
He did. He did.
Yeah. It's crazy when you watch different trials. Some of the judges, they kind of let the prosecution show whatever they want. In that Border Patrol trial, they were rushing them along. He was a little different. He was not ready to sit there and go through it all. It was kind of interesting to see that. So I don't know, but okay. So let me read this one to you. So we the people, a grand jury only hears one side of a case. The defense is not allowed to be there or speak. Imagine if you only heard one side of any story. This shows this case is weak. A preliminary hearing would have been fair. First of all, this is one of my, this case has just spun out of control. I mean, I'm just going to say that because we don't know. They have so much more than we know about. We talked about this a million times. Jenn and I, and you too, Crime Curious, we've all talked about it till we're blue in the face. They only put out a very little amount of information that they have, and it's just stressful to deal with. But you guys have any thoughts on that? Especially this part. Imagine if you only heard one side of any story. This shows this case is weak. A preliminary hearing would have been fair.
Hold on a minute. I want to Google something really quick because I know I've Googled this before, and I just want to see if I don't want to say anything before I'm ready. All right, hold on. Okay. I'm going to look at
Libra
this.
Moon, Riddler. What do you think, Crumb Curious?
Well, I mean, if it were me and I were the defendant, I would obviously prefer the proof evident presumption great, or the preliminary. I mean, luckily I'm not the defendant.
Right. I would too, because and we'll never be. But you're right, because then at least you're able to see part of their case that they're presenting like this. I mean, well, they're getting the transcripts, but hey, Glowbug. Waiting on Bendy. Let me see.
I guess I just don't have a really good understanding of why they make the choice for a grand jury instead of arrest and then preliminary.
Right. I think part of their reason, this is just my opinion and my guess, is that because it's secret. This way they have two witnesses, Dylan and Bethany. They're protected. Their testimony isn't out there, and they're not put up, people are really tough on them. No matter how you feel about it, that's just the truth. They are. So they probably, in my opinion, were trying to protect them a little bit and also keep their cards kind of closer to the, secret, more secret, right. Closer to the best, whatever.
Well, the thing about a grand jury is this. So unlike a trial jury, right? A trial jury has no say over what evidence they see. That's all decided at all the preliminary hearings, right? What evidence they get to look at, right? But in a grand jury, it's a little different, and they can ask more questions. So if there is exculpatory evidence, they can ask about that too. They can ask more, and they also ask questions for the witnesses too. So if it were me, I would much rather, for myself, right, I would rather have a hearing. I don't want a grand jury. But it's not that grand juries are not unfair. I think that's a little too far.
I agree with you. Thank you, Carol freaking Claus, for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much. And yes, make sure you hit allow gifts. Welcome new members. Thank you, guys. I have responded to, this is the second time I've said it, but a giveaway that I did for members a couple weeks ago, I had chosen a winner. I use a random number generator on Google to choose, and that's just how we did it this time. But they have not responded. So, make sure that if that's you, to go and respond and send me an email. And if not, I'll choose another one. So if you haven't commented over there, leave a comment. Okay, sorry, you guys.
Also, just so you guys know, they might have gone the grand jury route because they wanted a grand jury to hear what the surviving roommates had to say. And they wanted it kept secret, where it would have been open to the public had it been a... what is it called? Why can't I think of the word today? A preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing.
But what did you call it? I'm curious. A presumptive.
Proof evident presumption great.
Okay. Thank you for gifting, Glowbug. Thank you so much. Hey, AK, Twitter is the devil. That's kind of what we're doing tonight. We're just hanging out, laid back, and we're looking at other people's opinions and comments on. It's going to be a series on all the cases that are just very popular, heavily talked about. So someone responds, no, it doesn't. Use of a grand jury and the strength of a case are not correlated at all. They used a grand jury for Rex, and their case is stronger for him. A grand jury is used to speed up the nonsense, was planned to be used from the start. Preliminary hearing was never in the cards. We the People says, then why did the state agree to have a preliminary hearing? The state never agreed either way. They said they went behind the defense's back after agreeing to a preliminary hearing and did their dirty work. Oh my gosh. What? Okay.
That's a little harsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, there is an element of, I hate to use this term, but chess playing on both parts.
Right.
The defense is playing chess and the state is playing chess. But they have to do it within the confines of the law. They can't just be, like you can't just double jump. I don't even know how to play chess, but you can't double jump. You can't do any of that crazy shit. You got the rules still apply.
Right.
But
Strategy.
they're both playing chess. They're both, yeah, it's a game of, I hate saying that, but it is. A trial is about strategy.
Lynn, will you grab AK's channel for me, please, and Will? Because, yeah, I want to drop both of those channels. You guys go check them out. Okay. What do you think,
And
Crown
that's
Theory?
okay. They don't need to use the genealogy because they have his actual DNA,
Yes,
which they got when they arrested him. So it's fine.
Thank you. I meant to respond to that. Thank you. I was getting ready to just accidentally let it go. No, I'm glad you did because I meant to. And yes, they got a cheek swab from him, so they don't need it.
A buccal or buckle, depending on where you're from. Remember, we heard it. Can't remember what trial it was, but they were referring to it as it was Alec Murdaugh's buccal or buckle.
Yeah, I think it's buckle. What do you guys think?
Buckle.
Well, I can tell you
the prosecution. Nope, go ahead. I'm so sorry. It's a delay. Read. I was just responding to a comment.
No, I was just going to say, and I was going to try and be cute about it, but I was going to say in the Stouch trial, it was buckle.
The Stouch. So oh, God.
Yeah.
Stouch. I'm over that. Stout.
I have heard that with this incident that's recently happened, and there are so many people that have reported on it that have called it that, and I'm like, no.
It bothers me.
I mean, Al has literally said his last name like 11 billion times. He's pronounced his own last name. And if I were, now I will say this, Leticia's own attorneys would switch back and forth between the pronunciation. But Al, I would think, knows how to pronounce his own last name. So I'm going to go with the way that Al pronounces his last name, which is Stout.
Back and forth, you're right. Riddler, thank you. Riddler says, U.S. Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas once wrote, any experienced prosecutor will admit he can indict anybody at any time for almost anything before any grand jury. Wow. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they do say that you can get a ham sandwich indicted before a grand jury, but...
Wow, I didn't know that. Like, I never knew that there was even a stigma or whatever with the grand jury.
Well, let me say this. This is why I'm not really moved either way by any of this, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is a trial. And there are so many people, regular folks like us and people with degrees that are like lawyers that are going to be watching this trial as well. And if anything hinky is going on, we're going to know about it. That's the good thing about, having trials streamed, even if we don't get this one streamed, even if we have to wait for like we're going to with Vallow.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we're still going to get to hear all of the things. And so that's good. I'm not really all that worried about it right yet. There's not, because for me, there doesn't seem to be anything to be concerned about.
Yeah,
But
I
rest
agree.
assured, if there is something, I'll speak up.
Shay, thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Thank you. And also thank you, Lynn, for getting those links for me. Yeah, and I look forward to you coming back, AK. He says the grand jury's here, no exculpatory evidence. It's 100% prosecution, hence the ham sandwich.
Yeah, but the jury can ask questions about the evidence that's presented, which, I mean, it is what it is. I really think that they did it because I think they wanted to get in the surviving roommates, their statements. And I don't think they wanted it to be public. I think they're trying to protect their privacy up until they can't anymore, which will be at the trial. That's what I really think the deal is. I don't think it's anything like, nefarious, or they're trying to, believe me, if I thought for 1 second that this wasn't going fairly, I would be the first person to say something, because I can't stand injustice and I want the right person on trial for the right crime. I'm not looking for this guy to be railroaded. I don't have a personal investment in this. I don't need him to be guilty.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I want him to have a fair trial. I want factual information. And that's that. I don't necessarily see what a lot of people are so worked up about with this case. I kind of feel differently than some of that, but that's just that. Have you guys seen all these recordings, these security recordings that have came out, and they're all over? And
there's quite a kerfuffle, and I can't make heads or tails of it, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you. Me either. Like anything.
Like, is it legitimate? Was it leaked? Here's the thing. From what I can understand, the allegation is that it came potentially from a landlord or a property owner, and they allowed somebody to view their server, which means they had to log in, right? And then and people are saying, well, then they leaked it. But I don't think that a gag order pertains to necessarily that property owner. It might. I'm just not sure. Because I feel like who would take that if they were under that gag order? I feel like they would know they were under the gag order, and who the hell would take the risk? Because it could only have come from one of two places. If that person turned it over to the police, right, then it could only have come from that person, right, their server, the homeowner or the apartment owner's, property owner's server, or the police, right? And that a judge is going to get to the bottom of it and they're going to figure it out. So who would take that risk to get that footage out? It makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
I'm with you there. I don't see anything in it. Number one. Number two,
right?
How do we know that the dates weren't added on and it's not from a whole nother day, or because it's not coming from an official source? At that point, I don't trust it. It's tough. Have you seen
understand it?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time because I haven't been following it as closely as a lot of other people are. And there are so many people that go live on this case. I mean, there's so many people on any given day, I can see like 5 lives about it on my feed.
Right.
And if you skip like a week and then you go back in and try to follow what's going on, I have no idea what's going on or who to believe. And then every time I think I know something, I find out that was, faked or it was a lie or whatever. And it's just, so I've been, I don't know. I want to catch up on it, with somebody that I trust that can, talk to me about it, knowing that I don't have the same level of detail that everybody else does. It's like if you're not watching a Koberger video every day, then you have no chance of having any idea what's going on. That's what it seems like.
What are we supposed to even be seeing on this? Why is this footage important at all? That's the part I just start there.
Okay, so as far as I know, one of the places people were assuming that you would see him go by or do a turnaround by those Linda Lane apartments. People were looking for his car in that. Now this footage has been released from the neighbor right next door. Screenshots of some footage, and I don't know. They're just screenshots. You can't see anything on them, like this right here. This is the porch right next door. You can see it over here on the right, the gray house, and it says 1:56 a.m., which is 2 hours before the crime occurred. So nothing. I mean, I don't know. Now their caption says a leaked screenshot capture of the front of 1122 on the 13th at 1:56 when Kaylee and Maddie got home. Like the first one dropped, then that footage came out. They released this one too. So that is the time when her sister said that she came home, because I remember, I think it was Amber, ATS News, put some clips together where the sister was like, they're saying they came home at 1:45. It was 1:56. That makes a difference, like that kind of thing. So
what difference does it does what difference does it make what time they got home? And I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just curious what the difference, what is the difference?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I think that interview may have been done before he was even found, because she clipped together like different pieces.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, it's just like kind of nonsense. Some of these channels just love to keep the conspiracy theories going. Melissa, like, she's been trying to debunk all the crazy theories and stuff, and at least like get people to see that a lot of it is craziness. But the crazy theories, the cartel, these big stories, they get people in your chat and they make the channel grow. And I think that's what it is. I really do.
It hurts my brain. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's not that. Listen, I'm not trying to be like snotty about it or rude or anything like that. It's just that I don't think that this case is, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to the victims and to their families. This case is probably very complex, but to the perpetrator, allegedly Koberger, I do not think that that this case is all that complex. I think he was there. He had an agenda, and I think he made a plan, and I think he worked the plan, and I think he carried it out. That's what I think. I really do think it's kind of cut and dry, and I think that. I know we all want this trial, and we all want to know, but I just would caution everybody. First of all, they don't have to prove motive, right? They can put forth a motive, but the jury doesn't have to believe it. And I would be very curious to see how close the state's theory of motive actually is to Brian's, and if he's the one that did it, right? Because I don't think we're ever going to get that answer, what his motive was.
That's what bothers me the most, because that's what I want to know. Why? Where did, yeah. This is a good point. Truth and Justice Matters says that's why I know Ann Taylor was not authentic in implying Bethany had exculpatory evidence. She is using the public and the media to try this case. Now, I agree with you to an extent, because we've seen the media, the channels, the YouTube channels saying for a long time, and some of these channels are quite large, saying that the evidence on the sheath was planted. And now we know that she's put that in some of her court paperwork, insinuating that, the DNA could have been planted on the sheath, and or the sheath in general. So I think they're definitely aware of the media coverage and probably going to use it. Lisa
I
said
agree.
that the homeowner said that it, hold on, I can't find it, but Lisa commented the homeowner said it was edited.
Yes, that was the other part of it, that it had been, there was a post, and there was a different word that the homeowner used, but yes, essentially edited.
Thank you, Libra Moon. I didn't know that. I didn't see the post. Interesting. Who's the bottom? Hey, now, everybody, be nice. Respect the panel. Okay, let me keep going. I missed a ton of comments, but I'm just going to skip to the bottom because I was way far
Okay,
behind.
sorry.
That's okay. It ain't your fault. I love it. Where a black vehicle is, where white. See, like, what, who cares? Why are we wasting our time with this stuff? That's how I feel, truly. Okay. Let me go over to this for a minute. This is the Facebook group. Brian Koberger is innocent. I just can't believe. I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised, because we know that women do this with like every case with, you know, these men, but what in the world? It just, every time it blows my mind. I don't see a lot of men coming after, like, wanting to be with Letitia.
You'd be surprised,
there were a
though.
couple letters. I read a couple. Yeah, there were a couple letters. One was from a guy. He was locked up in Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility. His name was Chase Anderson, and he's there on some pretty nasty charges. His next parole hearing is 2027. Anyway, he wrote her a letter on March 5th. So the day she landed in Colorado Springs, he was writing her a letter talking about how he loved how her dark hair, you know, sat against her pale skin, and, you know, he's giving her legal advice, and it was interesting. And there was a second one as well, you know.
Well, y'all want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
Taylor Business is a hot commodity where she's at as well, for the gentleman in the jail.
Wow.
What?
Yup.
Hey, Teresa. Oh, AK, you rock. Thank you. You rock for sure. I totally screwed everything up there for a second. Okay. That's just crazy to me. Like, when he came out with the suit on and his gelled hair, like, people went wild. I mean, I don't know. And
I don't get it. He looked like he had a shower. Woohoo!
Yes, I agree.
I don't get it.
I don't find him attractive at all. I do think he favors Ted Bundy a little bit, but not in the good ways. Like, because Ted Bundy's a monster too. Don't get me wrong, but he is, you know, a more attractive man in my opinion. But
when I was making that intro and I was looking for pictures of Ted Bundy, you know what I can't get past is the unibrow. I mean, just like if you're just taking his face at face value, not his personality, nothing, just the actual face, just his aesthetic. I can't get past that unibrow.
The unibrow, yeah.
It's bad. Like, I don't, I don't want him to tweeze and make an arch or anything, but just get, you should have two eyebrows. They don't have to be identical. They got to be, sisters, but whatever. Like, just do something. It's gross.
That's funny. Well, maybe he did. I wonder if he was, when he was out of jail, a little bit better kept. But
no, I thought so, and I went and looked. No, he didn't give a rat's fat kneecap about them eyebrows. I'm telling you, that was his look.
That's funny. You went and looked. No, I went and looked. Okay, before we go to Reddit, I want to go through some of this. So July 18th, 3 days ago, Elaine posted, Brian Koberger is innocent. The state has subpoenaed a witness, and this is a motion order to seal and protect the identity of that witness. Deuces to come. What is that? DUCESTECUM. Meaning the witness cannot be revealed at this time and shall bring whatever is necessary that is of interest to the case. Deuces tectum refers to the request or order of the subpoenaed witness to bring a specific paper or item with them, whichever that may be. This witness is protected. Whatever is required that this witness bring with he or she is probably a report finalized for the preliminary. That's a guess. Have you ever heard of that, you guys?
No. But I'm not a lawyer. So.
Yeah, no, but you watch a lot of trials.
Yeah, but this is stuff that all this kind of back and forth and stuff doesn't usually, like, it's kind of already settled by the time it gets to the trial. And even before preliminary, this is this is preliminary filings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder what kind of witness that's interesting. Well, let me see. Yeah, I looked here. This term, she's correct. It means bring with you. So it's commonly called a subpoena duces tecum, a type of legal writ requiring one who has been summoned to appear in court to bring some specified item with him or her for use or examination by the court.
Well, it might be something like, so remember in Alec Murdaugh's trial where they had the guy come from the maker of the the vehicle that he drove, and they downloaded the black box, and he was the one who actually brought the report to the court. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense. It says a specific document, because I didn't watch that trial like that. You know what I mean? So, Melissa, I'd settle for distant cousins. Sometimes you have to. You've done the eyebrows 2 times. It ain't working out, and you just got to go.
Sometimes you got to put the tweezers down and walk away, and just the canvas is the canvas, and leave it at that.
Yep. Take home. Thank you, Neat Noodle. Yes, Patricia. AK's here right now. Hey, Patricia, by the way. Anon is way too suspicious. Crumb curious, what is your, before we go any further, what is your overall, understanding? What do you kind of think happened? Are you more on this? Just what is your overall understanding and idea of kind of what's going on here? Not all the rumors, but the actual case, the evidence they have, how you feel about him, and anything else that stands out. Because I know, you've just been quiet. I want to get your opinion too. Hello? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I hope she's okay over there.
Yeah.
Well,
Anon, the fire juggler guy?
Yes.
That other comment that Anon is way too suspicious. Fire juggler guy? I have to be caught up. I'm going to have to go back and look.
Yes, the fire juggler guy who, remember, he said he saw a black SUV or something like that, and he mentions walking by the house and them always partying, and I don't know, a couple other things. I didn't find him suspicious. I found him to probably want some attention. You know what I mean?
That's how I took him. I felt like he is look, the first time I ran into Anon, not literally, but internet wise, was on Criminality's panel with Mallory, by the way. And they showed me his videos, and I was quite impressed with the fact that his pants came down multiple times, not all the way down. There was almost the twig and the berries, but there wasn't, because he caught it. But he also never let go of the fire thingy, the fire sticks that he was juggling. And so he just seems sort of, he's just, I don't know. I didn't get that vibe from him, but that doesn't mean anything, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I don't have a negative impression of him. He's hiding something or inserting himself into the investigation in a manipulative way, the way that serial killers do, that way. I don't know.
Exactly. The people who watch because they want to know what happens because they were part of it. That one guy that I think it was a college girl, but he joined the search party and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And interviews and
There's lots of situations where that's happened. It's really sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It's crazy that they have the nerve to do that. You know what I mean? To just watch like that. In 50% of my lives, I'm natural from the waist down just because.
Oh, boy.
That's okay, KA. We love it. We are too. But AK, have you ever, when COVID first started and like news anchors were going on TV all the time, there was one that made headlines because he stood up or something and he was in like his boxers and people were like, "Oh my God." So, okay, let me see. I want to read the comments because someone says, "Who do you
Yes.
think it is?" She says, okay, the motion to seal is temporary and makes it clear that the witness is protected. And this could either be an employee who contributed to some gathered information or results of testing, but the witness is required to bring something with them. Bring something with them. That could square out to it being a contributing employee involved in results or an individual who has something they know, and the attorneys in court accept whatever he or she has to bring with them as pertinent information somehow. Let's see. Why are so many? Okay, yeah. Billy Bob knows and the fraud knows. Stitches get disbarred. They both know. What? Why are so many people involved as judges in this affair? Yeah, I get authority to judge per case. Billy Bob knows and the fraud knows. Stitches get disbarred. They both know. Huh? What?
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. We'll just move on. This case brings out the crazy, so I'm not surprised. Snitches get disbarred. Okay. This is an interesting one, though. It says defending Brian is not evil. Understanding that he may not be guilty is not evil. Respecting and considering the work and ethic the officials try to put in, parting lines between pressure, desperation, and preservation of staying within the boundaries of ethics when the process in a case becomes its own processional monster is not evil. Understanding the loss of victims is not evil. All of this can be compartmentalized, understood while seeing the possibility that Brian could be innocent. I mean, I think there's a possibility. And no, I don't think that we should be hard on the defense attorneys. We've talked about that some before, Jen. Like,
they're doing their job. That's what she's supposed to do.
Yeah, they have to. So is Billy Bob in this case now too?
I mean, listen, there are cases, right, where there is such an extreme pressure from the public on law enforcement that law enforcement can get tunnel vision, right? It does happen. I just have not, I can't say that it's happened in this case, and here's why. Because I don't know anything that's happened in this case. It's not because I haven't followed it. It's because they're protecting the integrity of the case and the trial, right? So when trial comes, I'm going to sit right with you guys, and I'm going to hear both sides. I'm going to hear everything that the prosecution puts forth, and I'm going to hear everything that the defense puts forth. And just like I'm not held to the same standards that a juror is held to, because obviously, but I'm going to listen to it. But at this point, I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm saying is, because we've heard so little, right? We don't know that. I don't know that yet, is what I'm trying to say. I can't say that he's been framed or he's not, because I don't have any evidence of that. That's why I'm just kind of taking a wait and see approach.
Melissa says there's a ton of funny business going on around this case, though. Just saying. What do you mean? And do you want the link? Because I'll totally drop it if you want to come up and explain. Because to me, what I see is that there's so much, like, I can't believe anything unless it's official. And so much of this stuff, just like this footage, look here, the first comments. First of all, there's the footage 1320. It says this footage has been altered. The owner of the apartment complex has stated this over and over again. The fake screams, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. I just think that, I just think that the media and social media is so invested and interested, but they're starting to make it appear to be more than it is and different. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thoughts. Okay, Melissa, yay. She said, yeah, let's hear her thoughts too, Jen.
Yeah, because I'm very curious about all of this situation. And it's not that I'm not saying that it can't or doesn't go on, or that it isn't even going on in this case. What I'm trying to do is take a wait and see approach. And because what has happened, in my opinion, is that the demand for facts and knowledge is great, and the supply is short, right? They're only letting out certain things that are actually official, and it makes people almost immediately be like, well, why are they keeping it from us? And the truth of the matter is they're not keeping it from us, in my opinion, at this stage. This is just my assessment now, subject to change. The truth is, I don't think they're keeping it from us. It's not personal because they're doing anything nefariously. I think they realize that this has been people have kept up with this. People are watching it, and they are keeping in mind moving forward that they have to pick a jury. And it's very difficult for jurors. You can hear about a case, right? And that's one thing. And they're not expecting for potential juror to not know anything about the case. What they expect that juror to do is to be able to set aside what they think they know about the case and only base their opinion on what they hear in that courtroom. And that is, depending on how much they've been inundated with, that's difficult for the average person to do. I don't even know if I could do it. I would give it a hell of a try, though. I'm telling you right now. If I was an Idaho resident or a Moscow resident, I would be giving it a hell of a try.
I would too. I think that I would have to, right? Like you would feel like you have to, but I wonder if other people, there are some really great people out there, but there are some shitty people too. You know what I mean? And I just don't trust people enough to do that sometimes. I don't know.
There are. And then you have the people who will do what they need to do to get on a jury. It does happen. Scott Peterson's case is not the only case where that allegation has been made. There have been other cases where that allegation has been made, and big cases too. It happens, So I think that is really what they're trying to prevent from happening. It's already going to be a complex case. It's already costing a lot of money, and I think they're trying to keep it as streamlined and as fair and all the things as possible. That's how I feel today.
Which is probably why they did the grand jury, to keep, like you said, things. Yeah. Thank you, AK. He says your mods are on point, as is your community. Good job fostering such a positive environment. Thank you so much. And you know what? You're right. Like, I don't even understand sometimes how I am so blessed and lucky to. The people that come in this chat are such amazing, awesome, smart people. And I don't know. It's just, I'm so thankful because a lot of days I'll be not in the mood to stream or whatever. And then I get on here and I feel so much better once I'm talking with everybody and that kind of thing. So thank you.
You do have a great community.
So do you. And they're kind of connected. Hold on, Melissa.
They are.
A little thing. Just there we go. Hello? Melissa?
Penis.
Oh, God.
Did I can do it? Okay.
Banner from the studio. Just ban her right now. She's already on her bullshit.
Hi.
It's me, Melissa. That's what I thought when I was like, Melissa.
It's me, Melissa.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
What you doing? It's
Oh.
me, Melissa.
I'm kind of examining my eyebrows, trying to figure out if they're like
Let it go.
or distant cousins.
Let it go. Listen, let's just say that they're from the same tree. Okay,
Yeah.
they're part of the family tree.
Most definitely.
There you go.
They're both on the same family tree, or at least they're in the same farm. They're on the same farm somewhere out there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay. So what are your thoughts? You said a lot of funny stuff is happening around this case. This was just a laid back look at other people's thoughts kind of thing. So what do you mean by that? I got to hear. Because let me say, Melissa's done an excellent job. A lot of these channels have covered the hell out of all the rumors and used clickbait. You have tried to debunk a lot of that, and you have been like nose deep in this. So you know more than I do at this point, and I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like the majority of my coverage now is like debunking. Seriously, that's what I do every day is just debunk to try to stop the misinformation from going around. But what is strange, specifically regarding all of this footage, is that, okay, so you have the Linda Lane cameras. You have 1320 Linda Lane, you have 1330 Linda Lane. They're both owned by the same person, Kane. So when you have one that's leaking, it's not so crazy to think that there's like another leaking, right? Because it's all from the same source. Yes, it's peculiar. Like, how did it get out? I don't know. That was already strange in itself. But now we have 1112 that a screenshot is appearing from, and I'm inclined to believe that it's a legit screenshot because the exact cars and little pumpkins, everything that you can compare it to when the news stations are there on the 13th, it's identical. And so that, unfortunately, is the camera that partially catches the audio of the murders caught. It's the 150 feet away from Xana's room. So the weird part is that, okay, one leak I could believe, even from multiple cameras because it's the same owner. But the leak from 1112, there's no reason that there should be two leaks on such like a highly locked down case.
But what is it? What is I get what is shown on the video? What is it?
Okay, so the 13 and 30 and 1320 Linda Lane, 1330, it's facing the Queen Road apartments. And
Okay.
so according to the PCA, it's basically when suspect vehicle 1 enters the area, and it could be seen making multiple passes like around the King Road residence. So with the Linda Lane footage, it's actually extremely accurate to the PCA down to the minute. So when you, because they have like at this time you see it entering this, at this point, at this time you see it entering here. And so with the Linda Lane footage, you're able to see it. Yes,
you can see his car.
Yeah, well,
Right.
suspect vehicle 1.
So does it look like the same vehicle that we saw being pulled over on that body cam footage?
Now there's going to be a bunch of arguments with that because I believe it does. Now it's in black and white, so it's
not as detailed and grainy,
right? And so you have certain people who take like a still shot of like from a different road and trying to claim reasonable doubt from a different. It's a mess, but you can't see anything clearly. But what people don't realize is that they have to have another camera because there's maneuvers seated on that PCA that isn't seen on the Linda Lane footage. But it lines up completely accurate to the PCA, other than the audios. So the audio of it, you could tell the organic version is in there because in the body cam footage of the band field when the kids got their tickets, you hear these beeps going on, and you could sync it up perfectly. So I believe the organic footage is in there, but I think that audios have been manipulated, and it has caused things to go rampant. Like, people are going crazy. The whole timeline of the murders are being like questioned, and people really believe it because there are creators who really push that narrative, like they push it in.
Yeah.
And this is the weird part, though, is that the source of these leaks, it's unclear, but it always originates in the channels that are pushing the conspiracy narrative. So the question is, where is this leak coming from? I could believe that someone could get one person to leak something out. Let's say like the Linda Lane footage. But the 1112 King Road, and that is dangerous for it to be out. I do not think it should be online. And the people who have it, though, if they're in the mindset of this clears Brian, this exonerates Brian, I don't think that they're going to hold back releasing the sounds that we know is captured on there. And so it's a scary thought. It's a very scary thought. It's fueling a bunch of narratives, a bunch of speculation, a bunch of conspiracies. And I can't figure out how it makes sense that someone was able to get both leaks. I don't understand that. That's weird to me.
It's very weird. Oh my God, I had not even thought about that, but you're right. And if they put that out, that's going to be horrific for the families.
Yeah.
Even like that fake scream that was made up, that was horrific enough. Yep. But gosh, see, number one, I do not have good eyesight. And when I'm watching those videos, I cannot make out like at all. I could obviously see like headlights or movement. So I just have to take your guys' word for it, of what you see. That's why I'm so interested. And I don't have the patience either to go through it all. So you think that there is some original footage, but some audio added to.
I think what you're seeing on the screen is accurate. It perfectly aligns with the PCA, but that's the most peculiar part because it perfectly aligns with the PCA. It's exactly what the PCA states, at least partially, right, for this one camera view. Yet they release all this footage and it's being released with a narrative. So I, could only make a timeline and how far back can I get it? Where did this start from? And the farthest I could get back, it's being released with the killer's name is Charlie. This is the time that the murders occurred, which is not, this is an hour before they even got home type of thing. And so the question is it's where is it coming from? How are they getting it? That's the weirdest part to me. How are they getting it? But the visuals, I am absolutely sure, in my opinion, are legitimate. But the audios, and even if you even obtain the original and put it into a program and enhance audio, guess what? It's no longer the original. And so it's being enhanced and edited and processed and this. So every time it passes through another person, it's being altered. Yet there are people who are gun-ho, listening and claiming that they could hear what doors in the King Road house are shutting at what time. Now, this is 300 feet away from the King Road residence. There are two apartment buildings between this camera and the King Road residence, yet people are more inclined to believe that, no, this is what's going on at the King Road that's being caught on audio versus any of the people in those apartments between. And it's just going rampant. It's flying. But I think that little snippets were added into it as far as the audio. But the Linda Lane footage is one thing. I am genuinely concerned about this 11/12 King Road footage being out. Like I said, it's only a screenshot now, but if you have a screenshot and it looks legitimate, I could only go by trying to verify it by looking at it, and it looks to be legitimate. That is terrifying to think that the conspiracy channels surrounding this crime is going to leak it out, because they're going to leak it out in a way that portrays another person to have done this.
Oh my God.
I wonder how easy it would be to, I'm going to ponder that.
Well, notice also what I found interesting.
Bug.
None of the mainstream media has picked up on this. No Ashley Banfield, and Ashley Banfield is in the Idaho group. You know that. She was getting a lot of her segments from YouTube, the Idaho group. Yeah. Not one main network has touched this, and that's peculiar to me. And I'm interested to know why. And I want to know, how is this going to, because even if you believe Brian is innocent, which maybe he is, I don't know, but wouldn't you want him to get a fair trial? If you genuinely believe, because the majority of people believe other people did this, and people you see, movements you see, cars you see are other people, and it exonerates Brian. Meanwhile, It's wouldn't you expect to see other people or other cars? It's a very populated area on a Saturday night, student housing. You're going to see people. It's not crazy in a 6-hour time period that you're going to see a vehicle here or there, or a person walking through here or there. But they think 100% this proves it's not Brian.
Well, that's interesting, because this is what I would think. Okay. If these people have access to potentially exonerating evidence, social media is not who needs that evidence. If that's, who should be seeing that evidence? Ann Taylor.
They say they sent it to her. Some people even say that it's the defense that's leaking it, or it's the family members that are leaking it. I don't even want to repeat specifically what they say, because I don't like it, but that is what they're saying. But again, I circle back when it was just the Linda Lane footage, despite it being multiple cameras. I'm like, all right, there's a leak. Now that the 11/12, I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, where is this coming from? How is it possible that, and why now? Why now? Out of nowhere, all of this footage is coming out. It's strange.
It's very strange. Yeah. I think your point about the media is such a good point. But you know what?
That's a good point.
I'm not buying it. I think if there was evidence out there that proved it wasn't him, I just don't buy it.
Well, and Ann Taylor herself said she doesn't believe that the prosecution is holding or hiding anything. She said that, so what are, why aren't we? The problem is that we are living in a very entitled age, I've noticed. Everyone feels entitled to know everything. We aren't entitled to know anything at all. Yet everybody thinks, well, why aren't they releasing this? Why aren't they saying that? Because they don't need to. They don't need to prove it to us as the public. If trial comes and things aren't answered or they can't back up that PCA, guess what? He probably won't be convicted. If you can't just say whatever you want in the PCA and then hope for the best come trial, they have to back it up. And if come trial, everything is still weird and we have a bunch of unanswered questions, okay, then I could understand going crazy with it. But we're not there yet. And for you to assume that they don't have more because they didn't give us more is completely irresponsible.
Yeah, right. And it's just not true.
No.
That's just not the way that true crime works. I think that one of the things is this case, similar to Kylie Rodney and Gabby Petito, has brought a lot of people in to the true crime community, the chats, the comment sections that are not used to it, that maybe haven't followed a case like this. They don't understand that the arrest affidavit is just a very small amount of evidence. Even the grand jury hearing is not, they don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That it comes at trial. That is when they give all their evidence. That is just the facts. But I think that people don't realize that, because you see people all the time. They don't have nothing on him. How do you know?
Yeah.
We don't know what they have.
And I get it. It's weird because we have the way that it played out was the state came out and they said that that DNA found on the knife sheath is octillion percent. I don't know. It was like, octillion percent to be confirmed Brian's. Right after that, the defense comes out with a total lack of DNA in his car, his apartment, his office, and home. And then the state comes back with, we're going for death penalty. So you have the prosecution and you have the defense who are painting two total opposite ends of the spectrum pictures, which they're supposed to. That's their job, right? But
right, that's not unusual.
Right. But when people saw the total lack of DNA in his car, because we know, as of now, there really wasn't anything in the house as far as Brian's other than that DNA on the knife sheath, as far as we know.
Right.
And so we'd anticipate victim's DNA being in at least that car. Yes, he had 6 weeks to clean, but when people saw that and they saw Ann Taylor's choice of wording for the sheath placed there, they went crazy. But again, that's her job. Her job is.
Well, let me tell you something. Ann Taylor is an incredibly intelligent, educated woman. Okay, first of all, for her to be death penalty qualified, that's a big deal. Okay. Yeah. And it's nothing to snub your nose at. In order for an attorney to be qualified to represent their client in a death penalty case, it's not just every attorney can do it. Okay. It's, so there's that thing. Ann Taylor is keenly aware of the gag order. Okay. Right. And what I think that she's doing is, and I don't blame her for doing it, but she knows that these filings are going to be made public because every single one of them has been. And it's what you'll notice, from what I've noticed anyway, is that anytime she files something, the whole internet loses its mind.
Yep.
Because of the way that she words it. That is an intentional thing.
Yes.
Thank you, AK. Welcome back, by the way. Thank you so much. I appreciate it more than you know. Very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an intentional, and it's not an intentional in a nefarious way. Okay. Right. That's what attorneys do.
Yeah, it's their job.
That's their job. Their job is to tell a story within the confines of a law. They can't just be making things up. Right. Okay. But the person who can show them up best evidence and tell the best story is the person who wins. Basically. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that. I think you guys take my meaning. But when they're arguing in front of, that's why they make a big deal during trials. If you'll notice, during opening and closing, the judge will always tell the jury, right before the prosecution makes their opening statement. This is not the facts of the case. This is what the state intends to prove. The evidence is the evidence, not what the lawyers say. But yet we still have opening statements and we still have closing statements. And they do stick with the jurors. What the jurors will do is, it's not that they weigh evidence based on the closing, but they remember the highlights of the closing arguments from both sides. And they contemplate that evidence. And we know they do because they talk about it. So that's why it's done that way. And she's doing what she's doing because it's her job.
Well, can I ask you, because I have not been able to
I'm done with questions for tonight. That's it. I'm done. Bye-bye.
I've been struggling, and I've tried to ask in chats that have the lawyers on, and so Ann Taylor, when she states things in these motions, it has to be 100% accurate, or as of that she knows, meaning she hasn't been handed over anything. So when the total lack of DNA, I've always thought that, I don't think that means necessarily none, because lack of means insufficient. It's lacking of. That doesn't necessarily mean there's none, but it could be lacking, less than, and
less than what you would expect.
Right. And so I think, and I get hung up on the wording, because you have to really take what they say. She's using the same way with the sheath was placed. She didn't say planted. Everyone's running around saying planted. She said placed. That could go both ways, it could go multiple different ways. But do you think when she states total lack of DNA, that is synonymous with none? Or do you think that that's a play on words? Or do you think total lack of DNA as far as the evidence she has been given so far? What's your thoughts on it?
I would need to know. I need to know what she said before that. I need the whole entire sentence. Okay. Because what attorneys do is, when they file these motions, right, they are making a plea to the court. It's not for us. I mean, we all can read it, right? But she's really speaking to the court, the judge. Okay. And what she's saying is, based on this law or this statute, et cetera, and that's how they tailor these filings. So I'd need to know a little bit more information than just the words lack of.
Total lack of.
Total lack of.
I want to talk about that more, because I've got questions for you guys about the DNA and about the trash incident. But before I ask you that, Willie says they have the right guy, but public doesn't deserve to know. Yet they lay out everything on Lisk and play this chick's 911 call that deceived us all. Carly.
She didn't murder anyone.
Gag. And also, Willie, there was another case from Idaho, Lori Vallow, and they did the same thing. There was a gag order. They wouldn't let cameras in the court. Idaho is I'm starting to see that they seem to be kind of strict with this stuff. So maybe that's part of it. But
Idaho has Idaho has some. They're not. It's not that they're different. It's just that I wasn't used to the way that Idaho does things, and their rules of evidence are, the way that they're sort of worded is a little different than what I'm used to. And so I remember when Ann Taylor wrote the very first filing that she ever filed, when she was asking for discovery. Right. And she wrote in there about anything from a co-defendant, right? And everybody lost their mind. I went and hit up the Idaho rules of evidence, and I looked it up. And the reason that she wrote that is because if she doesn't ask for a co-defendant from the very beginning at the time she's asking for discovery, and should a co-defendant be developed at a later point, then she would not be entitled to it. She's very, very, very thorough.
Exactly. She's covering all of her bases.
Right. She's doing her job.
It doesn't necessarily mean it. It mean it's there versus she's covering her tracks. That's what her job is to do. Same thing with the PCA. She didn't write the PCA, obviously, but it's stated suspect vehicle one. People have run with where's suspect vehicle 2? In my opinion, I'm like, it doesn't mean that there's a 2. It's an open and active investigation. They're going to label it suspect vehicle 1 because at any point, if there is another vehicle that comes in, they're just going to simply add 2, versus what if they just name it suspect vehicle and then down the line another one comes in? What are they supposed to go backwards and then rewrite that? I don't think that means at all.
No, it's also okay. So if you think about it like this, when they were investigating it, right, they only had an unknown suspect, right? They didn't know who their suspect was. So it's possible that the number 1 is also, could the suspect own more than one vehicle? That's also, it's both. It's what you're saying. And also, could the suspect own multiple vehicles? It's, they do that. I mean, that's how, it doesn't mean anything. Like it's not, there didn't leave out suspect vehicle 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
It's just, that's the vehicle they started watching.
Oh.
Okay. So, what do you guys think about this lack of DNA comment? Do you think it's possible that he, prepped his car with plastic or whatever? And because we know he was very conscious of this, because him taking the trash to the neighbor's house, being caught in his underwear with the gloves, wearing gloves out when he's, at the grocery store, things like that. So he's hyper aware of that.
I picture Brian Kober. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Murder by Numbers, but Ryan Gosling and oh God, what's the Pitt? No, it's the other Pitt brother, Michael Pitt. Do you know they wanted him originally to play Damien Eccles in Devil's Knot? That's just an aside.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I love him in Boardwalk Empire.
But that's just an aside. Anyway, he was really good in Bully too. That's not what. Stay on focus, Jen. Get the ADD in check. I picture Brian doing something similar. I picture him taking every single countermeasure he could, but you can't account for everything. Like even in that movie, they were caught because of the barf.
Right. Well, and just because I'm interested to know. So, because I remember with the Letitia trial, they had to be very careful. Like the Blue Star agents who got on the stand, they couldn't even say that was blood, right? They could just say it was a positive reaction for blood. But they were able to identify areas that had been cleaned because of how illuminated it would become or less illuminated in certain areas. So I'm curious, when she says total lack of DNA, does that mean that there's absolutely nothing, or is it possible that there can be something, but not enough to recover an actual identifiable source?
Yes. So I'll give you an example, Murdoch. So when they scraped underneath, what is her name? Why can't I think of her name? Maggie. Thank you. It's late for me, you guys. When they scraped underneath Maggie Murdaugh's nails, they recovered several alleles, but they didn't, and some of the alleles matched a known person, right? And I can't for the life of me right this second think of his name. But then there was another profile, but there wasn't enough for them to identify that profile. Right. And the thing about DNA is, so when they collected the sheath, that was under pretty much nothing had been done to that scene. It's not like there were, they were missed. They were discovered immediately. And so things that were collected hopefully correctly, stored correctly, preserved correctly. So when you have a vehicle, right, DNA after a while degrades. And it also depends on what you clean with. Mm-hmm. Because most people, Letitia, would clean with like bleach and ammonia, which is a dangerous combination. Separately, they're fine, but you don't put them together. It's dangerous gas. But like now we have plant-based cleaning products.
Right.
So the fact is that he had 6 weeks and knowledge.
Yep.
That's I mean, that's going to be a problem.
Right. So it doesn't mean that they same thing with the sheath, right? We know that they obtained a single source of DNA on the buckle of the sheath. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't DNA all over that sheath, just not able to be identified as a male source, or that, who knows? And I can't imagine the sheath was just like clean and perfect with a fingerprint on it. It was underneath one of the victims. And
well, they put in the probable cause affidavit the evidence that they felt would be the strongest in order to secure a warrant. Now, what will happen at trial is the DNA, the person who swabbed who handled the sheath, right, is going to get up on that stand, and they're going to talk about everything that they did and all of the results that were yielded or not yielded. And we'll get a further explanation.
Yeah.
We don't know that there wasn't more DNA on that sheath, because what we know is only what's in the probable cause affidavit.
Well,
and yes, and what?
Well, and people, and I've struggled with this at one point too. With the PCA, I'm aware that it's only enough, the bare minimum that you can put in, but enough to secure, right, that this arrest can be made. It has to be enough. But people are taking that PCA like this is, that this is gold, that this is all that they have. And something it again lacks, in totality, is DNA, right? His DNA aside from the sheath, or the victim's DNA and any of his cars, that nothing. And so all we have is a latent shoe print on the second round of processing that was found. Does that mean that there's no other shoe prints? Maybe is it that shoe print is only there to corroborate one of the witnesses, an eyewitness testimony, like, because where the shoe print was found corroborates her story. Does that mean that there's nothing else?
Nope. There could
No,
be
it doesn't.
any other footprints they didn't mention.
Exactly. You're right, Allie. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. So what they do is they go through the evidence that they have, and they write up their probable cause. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to go in front of a judge and have the judge deny you on your first go around. It happens, but you don't want, that's what you'd like to avoid, because guess what? That's part of the record.
Okay, you guys, I got another thing I want to ask you that kind of makes sense with like what people are saying on Reddit. They're talking about what is his motive. And they say a simple question, and what I believe to be the most important question: why? Assuming the perpetrator is sane, not crazy, and of average intelligence, and committed these 4 awful and unjustified murders with the intention of not ever being apprehended by the authorities, then why? What do you believe is the perpetrator's true underlying motive or motives based on the case facts presently known to the public? They think a crime of passion. I want to know what you guys think.
You don't need to know his motive, honestly, but if you're just curious,
Curious, just like out of my own satisfaction, I want to know.
I think that, one of the victims must have been targeted in some way. Like, there was somebody who he had his eye on. But I think that he got some type of sexual gratification, not, just from the thrill of the kill itself. But I don't know really, other than that, what his motive would be, because we don't have enough information, though, because we get 2 pictures painted of Brian Koberger, complete opposite end of the spectrums. In one sense, they're telling us that he is this student, this is his field, he has studied it, he is so smart, he was able to pull up these murders in such a short period of time, no DNA, right? But then we have the other picture of Brian where he was so sloppy, he brought his car, right? He's seen doing all these maneuvers, he brings his phone with him, just really, like, just silly stuff. So when I try to think of a motive, it flips back and forth because it would change depending on which version of Brian I'm looking at. And I haven't had anything consistent. So I'm like, I don't know what it is. But I do believe that there was a target of some kind and he got some type of gratification from the act in itself. But other than that, I don't know.
I agree with you on that, the gratification part. What do you think, Jen? Do you, like, if you had to guess, or with your theory that you most likely lean towards, is there any motive that you've thought of? Or obviously we don't know, right? We're just speculating, but it's something that, like, even with Letitia, it's something that I really want to know with these cases. Why did you do this? What brought this on?
What I'm prepared to say is, because you're asking based on what we know, for sure. I'm going to stay away from saying that this was that there was somebody that was targeted. And the reason I'm staying away from that is because for me personally, I would need to know a little bit more information, like what happened, the injuries to the different victims. That's what because it's part of it, right? To see who might have been the target. But I'll tell you this, sometimes that is wrong too. So to me, it seems like, I think he got tired of studying what these people did. And I think he wanted to do it himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that I don't believe in a nature versus nurture. I believe it's a combination of both, because you can have people who are raised in the same home but turn out completely different, right? And so I think it has to be the right combination at the right time under the right set of circumstances for evil like this to grow. And I think that one thing I will say is that Brian seems like he fixates on things. And so I feel like it started as a tiny little idea in his brain. I wonder what it would be like. And then something changed. Something externally happened, I think, to force this change. And I don't know enough about Brian Kober that's really been verified, right? So I don't know what that is. I have a feeling we'll find out at trial. But I think what happened is that something externally changed, and that thought stopped being a thought and became more of an intrusive, consuming thought until finally he acted on it. What I'm very, very curious about is the woman that he studied under. I would very much like to, and I can't, what's her name?
BTK professor. I'm not sure what.
I cannot think. I see her all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not so much interested in seeing her body of work. I know I looked at the books that she's written. What I'd really like to get my hands on is her syllabus, because I'd really like to know what exactly it was that she taught respective to these different serial killers, because Brian seems to have employed a couple of MOs. Not, like BTK was a stalker. He watched all of his victims, right? Bundy was a lurer.
Right.
He would pretend that he was injured and then attack. But then, we had I just would like to know.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
I don't think we know enough.
I don't think we know enough either. I was trying to find, there was a story that came out on Crime Online the other day from more people who knew him that had kind of spoken out about his demeanor. But I think that what you said about it being, well, first let me say a proper thank you to you again, Carol freaking Claus. I appreciate that so much. And welcome new members. And then
I love that's her name now. Sorry, I always giggle.
I know. I can't even think of her without saying the
Aries middle. Aries Pure. Will you highlight Aries Pure or star it just for
which
later?
One? Yes, which one?
The one about BTK called the Giglio Beach suspect his clone.
Gilgo, yeah.
Gilgo, I'm sorry, I can never say it correctly.
No, everyone's saying it like you say it, yeah.
Did you know BTK called the Gilgo Beach suspect his clone? No, but I did see that his daughter spoke out on the case.
Shea Benet nailed it like Ed Kemper. That's another one.
Yep.
Ed Kemper was the co-ed killer, and Ed Kemper was a stabber.
And he aided police, right? And that's what, like, Koberger trying to apply for an internship reminded me of Edmund Kemper, because
Edmund tried to work. Because he wanted to work as a police officer,
right? But he would help and discuss his own case with the policeman.
He did.
Pointer Lover, or not Pointer Lover, Marie, she was talking to Pointer Lover, her Catherine Ramsland.
Yes.
Thank you. I knew it was a K.
So she says, I have a question. As a Brit, I don't know about Elantras, but surely the car had GPS. Where's that evidence? Even if you disable it, it saves to a cloud. At 2015, I'm not sure if it would, actually.
No.
I don't think it would.
So.
Yeah.
But they'll have this movement, you guys, like, you know, again, in the age of technology, they can, with the cast is involved with this. Look what happened to Alex Cox. They were able to pinpoint down to within feet of where. That's the only way they were able. Yeah.
That's a really good point that you brought up, Melissa, because that's so important. So one of the main things that we learned coming out of Lori Vallow's trial was Lori Daybell. I'm not even going to call her Vallow because she doesn't want to be referred to that. And that's not really her government last name. It is Daybell.
Yeah.
Coming out of the Daybell trial, Lori's trial, there were things that we learned and dots that were connected. And one of them was not only Alex's phone, but also Chad's.
Yeah. Yep.
So there are, and like, I'll give you another example that was even more recent, which, well, I guess it was at the same time. Leticia Stout, her trial. All of us that followed that case, and I know this because when I was streaming it, as soon as the medical examiner testified to the order in which Gannon's injuries occurred, the way that she, based on examining the body, said it happened, right? People in the chat were shocked. I was shocked.
Yeah.
We all thought, the majority of people thought that he was hit in the head first. And we learned that that's not the order it happened, that we all know what the order was. I'm not going to repeat it, but you know what I'm saying? So that's my point in holding off on a trial and just being patient. Listen, nobody wants these answers aside from like just true crime community. I'm not talking about the families. They're the ones that are owed the answers, not me, not us. But I want to know what happened too, just as much as you guys do. Believe me, I'm watching it. I'm very curious, but I've held back on saying a lot of stuff or really even covering it because I'm waiting for the trial.
Right.
Because at that point, that's when I will have a better idea of, listen, are they railroading this guy? Believe me, I promise you guys, I will be if I think there's even a 8% chance that there's railroading going on, I will be the first person to stand up and say, I can't stand injustice. Right. I never want an innocent person convicted, ever.
I don't either. I completely agree. Now, as far as I think what his motive is, I don't know, but I think what you said I think that whatever was going through his mind did become intrusive. I think it's very possible that he ran into them somewhere or ran into one of them on social media and maybe become infatuated. The sheath being next to Maddie, I had heard, many people have made their assumptions on what that means, but I was listening to an ex-cop and he said he believes that's where the attack started. Now, I think that's interesting. What do you guys think about that? And because Steve was asking, what do you guys think about the order, which we talked some about with Mallory, but still, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I always am curious about that because it, for me, potentially could go both ways, right? He could have, you would think, okay, well, maybe he dropped it at the beginning, right? But then I could also see it being dropped at the end as well, because you're at that point now you've gone way over the line. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And you're at really, as much as I'm sure Brian likes to think that he was in control during those, and even serial killers, even Ted Bundy, even BTK, even Ed Kemper, although you have to take what they say with a grain of salt, because obviously, right? But they weren't actually in control during the actual time they were taking somebody's life. And I think that I'm not exactly, I don't know. I can't, because we don't know enough. I will say that it would make more sense that it started there, but I just also think that's kind of a big risk, that you would walk up the stairs past 2 doors, right, to get to a 3rd floor. It seemed to me that if, and I think that's why people think that it was targeted, because he started there. But see, I always, whenever they talk about somebody who's fixated, like a stalker, right? It's something very innocuous that means nothing to the other person. It's something that happens every day, but they read so much more into it, right? Like they think that you caught their eye. Do you know what I'm saying? And held it. And the truth of the matter is, you might have been looking at somebody 6 people behind them. You don't even know who they are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would seem to me that you would, if that were the motive, that you would want to spend the most time with that person, which would mean that you would save them for last. Maybe that's just my thinking. I don't know.
I could see that. Go ahead, Melissa.
I think that it was only supposed to be one person. So I think he was supposed to start and finish there. But even though I really liked Mallory's theory yesterday, because I don't believe Kaylee and Maddie were in separate bedrooms. They went home together. Kaylee was only there for that one more night. They were drinking. They had carbonara. We know they made calls to Jack. I think they were in the bed together, that they're more likely to just have passed out like that. Right. Now,
it could have been just one of those things too. Girlfriends do this, right? It's your last night, and it's all coming to a close, and we're not going to be roommates anymore. And yeah,
they were probably.
I get it.
Carbonara. They were both calling Jack. We know that. So I'm more inclined to believe they stayed in the same room versus at some point Kaylee left and then suddenly ended up back in the same bed. That's just my opinion. But what I do know is, based on Dylan's testimony in the PCA, well, her statements in the PCA, not testimony, she perceived what she heard was Kaylee and the dog playing. I think that is when the attacks occurred, because we see him still at 4:04. So we have a very tight time frame.
Oh, yeah.
That is when the attacks occurred, in my opinion. Then she heard someone say, "There's someone here." DoorDash at some point, came into play. Xana was awake and scrolling through TikTok. She even left a comment on a TikTok, 4:12 a.m. That tells me it wasn't Xana who was, the target first. And Xana and Ethan kind of go hand in hand. So I think DoorDash came. Brian came immediately after, went right upstairs. That's what Dylan heard. And then Xana was either walking to or from the kitchen, maybe to put her DoorDash down. They crossed paths, because he would have had to cross paths to get back out the slider. That's when Xana screamed, "There's someone here." That's what Dylan heard. Xana runs back to her room, right, to alert Ethan. And that's when he stumbles upon these next 2 that he has to kill. So not only did he go in for 1, but he had to do 2 upstairs, unplanned, came down. Ethan shouldn't have been there. Technically, Kaylee shouldn't have been there. So now, and with your adrenaline pumping, and we heard Steve say that it was a mess on the 2nd floor. There was a struggle, and that there was a lot of evidence left behind. And I believe that too, because they were found on the we don't know where Ethan was, but we know Xana was found on the floor. And so I think at that point, his adrenaline was pumping. We know that it was caught on the neighboring audio. We know that Murphy was barking. I think at that point, he didn't know how much time had passed, how loud that actually was. This was all unplanned. You could plan everything to a T, but there's things that you cannot account for that you're
best laid plans. Right.
And so at that point, I think he did see Dylan on the way out, because she saw him, and the way her door opens, I struggle to believe that she saw him without him seeing her. But at that point, I think he really thought cops would have been called already. and he booked it. And that's why I think he returned the next morning, not to get the sheath, because he sat there and he waited for that alert to go off on his phone. He waited to see it going on the news, and nothing happened. And curiosity was killing him to the point where he wanted to do a quick drive-by to see what's going on at the house.
I agree. That part I agree with. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think the front door being open is related at all?
I think the front door being open was the friend summoned.
Okay. Now, at 8:30 in the morning?
Well, that's not according to like what Chrissy relayed, to another channel creator who relayed to us. But again, the game of telephone could be played. So even if he's relaying her exact words, I could say something, Bendy can say something, and people can interpret that two totally different ways. So
yeah.
I don't know, and when Chief Fry was asked about that door being ajar, he didn't know about it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I kind of feel a little differently. I think it's possible they were in separate beds, but to the point of what order did this occur? I believe, and this is just me, but it makes sense that the way that it's written in the affidavit is going to be from the way that they believe that it occurred, right? From start to finish. They're not going to go the last person first, right, Jen? Am I right on that?
No, yeah. The way they wrote it, they talked about where they thought it started, which was on the 3rd floor. Yeah.
But also just the way they list out the charges, like the first charge is going to be the first, like, then look here, like right here, it says.
I have Lisk right here. Let me see if the order of the charges murdered for Rex are in the order that they were charged.
Oh, yeah. See if that is, because I've got the affidavit on the screen.
Well, we don't want to go by Lisk because that's a different, let's go by Vallow. How are Lori and Chad charged? Whose murders occurred first?
That's a good idea. See if Tylee's first. Can I hold on? How can
well,
I do
technically, it should be
Rex's paperwork in front of me.
Yeah, it should be Tylee, JJ, then Tammy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because that way we can, because it'd be
is
the
it
same
in the order
state.
of the birthday? Shay said it's in the order of the birthday.
Of the birthday. Huh?
The victims, the 4 of them, it's in the order of their birthday.
What? Really? I don't know. I'd be surprised if that was true, but maybe it is. I don't know. Let me look at Lori's though. I search Lori Vallow charges. Lori Vallow charged with. I'll see if I can get one of the first articles that came out.
Well, just search Lori Vallow Daybell probable cause affidavit.
Oh, okay. Lori
That's
Vallow.
what we need. Because it has to be the same thing. Otherwise,
That's a good point. Yeah. Try to make it right. Okay. Can I even get that? I don't know if, oh, here we go. Read the documents charging Lori Vallow. I'd be curious to know about Lisk though, just to know, but okay. The criminal complaint.
Yeah. Tell me how, yeah. I'm curious, but different. Okay. Hit it.
Count 1 is JJ. Count 1 is JJ. Yeah. Wow.
Oh.
Okay. Count 2 is Tylee. Count 3 is JJ. Count 4 is Tylee. It goes back and forth. Huh. Okay. Interesting. I don't know.
And it's possible that the way the PCA was written is in the way in which the crime was investigated. So what they did is work from the top floor all the way down.
That makes sense. Yeah. And with, I think that it
because
has to be
they had one of the surviving roommates, right? I'm not going to say her name. Her room was on the third, on the bottom floor, the basement floor, right? And then the second floor is where the kitchen was, where Xana and Ethan were found. And then across the hall from them is Dylan, right? And then on the third floor. So maybe they worked from the top down. And that's why, it's written the way that it is. We won't know until we get to court.
Difficult research is here. Hey, by the way, let me pull this back up. What I found. She says that it was Kylie, JJ, maybe this is what I read it off of when I said that. It's the East Idaho News from 2020. So in court, maybe it was like she's saying, and it was in order of the way it occurred. And this is like from 2020 when they first were charged.
Right. Well, yeah.
Huh. That is so interesting, though. Thank you for being here, by the way. And
thank you, Difficult Research. Hey, while you're in here, I asked you in your chat, but I don't think you saw it. Are you going to stream her sentencing?
So listed order. It's, as far as I can tell, it's ordered in the timeline format of their last known dates that they were seen.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Can you guys please drop Krish's channel? I want any of you guys that are in here, please go subscribe to Difficult Research. The mods are going to drop the link, but she is both. Her perspective is very interesting because she's both, victim or a family member of one of the victims. She is she's Kay's daughter. Charles's niece, Charles Vallow's niece, Tylee and JJ's great aunt, would that be? Oh, I'm bad with that kind of stuff, so let me stop. But she also has a YouTube channel where she's very vocal. She speaks out. She talks a lot about the Mormon Church. It's very interesting and important because those are the voices that really need to be heard. I really want to, please go subscribe if you guys can.
She's Kay's daughter, right? So Charles would be her uncle. So JJ would be, because it would be her nephew. It would have actually been, no, wait. Oh my God. Never mind. I'm not even going to try to do this. It's way too late.
She said it's going to be a killer sentencing. Y'all
of course Yes, we are. Yes, we are. As soon as you schedule that, I will share it. That's where I'm going to be. Well, yes, the ants.
Yeah, it just confuses me with like the grade. I don't know. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff I get. But Charles is my uncle. JJ was my brother's only child. Oh, right. Yes. This makes JJ
so she would, right. And it would be JJ would be Charles's great nephew, right?
Yes. Before he was
his son.
Mm-hmm.
Biologically, yes.
Yep, because
he looks a lot
just like my grandma's my grandmother's brother would be my great uncle. That same
right.
But that is so confusing for me, that kind of stuff. She says it's already scheduled. Oh my gosh, I'm so
good. Okay, I'll share it and I will be there. Well, shoot. Yeah. I gotta cover what's her face. That might be the only day I start a little late for business.
Yeah. Ooh, Angie says I was Mormon, raised Mormon, and I live so close to Chandler, Arizona. This story just breaks my heart. I know it has grabbed me for years. I remember years ago. Melissa? Do you remember when I made this chart? Like years ago, whenever
the case.
Mm-hmm. For Lori's. Yeah. And because when it first started, like I wanted to know everything, but it was so hard to make sense of.
There were a lot of players.
I'm waiting for what goes down in Arizona because I think that there are more people. This is just my opinion. Who were accessories. They were cahooting. And there should be more people facing charges. That's just my opinion.
Oh, 1,000%. How is Melanie Boudreaux not facing charges? Especially after those two.
How is Melanie Gibb not facing charges just for lying to police? For covering. Because make no mistake about it, Gibb, Melanie, she bangs. You gave Lori and Chad a head start. That's what you did by that. Who knows if you would have been honest from the beginning, if anything would have, we'll never know because you weren't.
Well, if they make a deal in exchange for like testimony, Is that always public knowledge?
Yes, because that's the first thing that a defense attorney is going to bring up.
Right.
Because it goes to their credibility.
Didn't Chad's lawyer ask that at the preliminary?
He did. And she said
was
no.
There?
No, there was none. No. But I'm telling you right now, prior will be much harder on Gibb than Lori's attorney was. Prior is coming for Melanie. If y'all when it gets closer to Chad's trial, we will absolutely revisit Chad's pretrial hearing in which Melanie Gibb testifies and look at how Prior goes for her.
Oh, yes. He has it out for her. Now, I thought they did, because I remember him asking, and he wanted any grand jury stuff. He kept asking if there were any deals made.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she should be charged. Remember, we found out in those text messages that Lori and Melanie were talking about, the pain. She was calling Chad father, for God's sake.
Yes.
It was disgusting.
They were discussing light and dark about their own children. And I don't give a rat's fat kneecap what you say, Boudreaux. You knew exactly what that meant.
He does distancing techniques where it's like, well, they, did this, and that, well, I didn't really, always distancing herself.
Meanwhile, Melanie Gibb is the worst about that. Well, I didn't really believe. I kind of believed. Really?
I went along with it. Yeah.
Let me just say this, Melanie. When I don't believe in something, I don't participate in that activity. Okay?
Yep. She says, Crescia says, I respect all good Mormons. I truly do. My uncle, J.J. Tiley, they were all Mormon. Lori and Chad, too. I just don't think it's smart for us to exclude the church. But then she said, Pryor was at Lori's trial every single day. I have to side with him in this aspect. I can't stand any of the co-conspirators, especially David, Melanie P., Melanie G., and Audrey. And I'm with you. I can't either.
I'm with you, too.
They all need to be charged.
You are correct. And Crescia, I did a lot of research into the church as well, and I would love to pick your brain.
Oh yeah, Jen spent a lot of time reading about, doing research when we were
lining up dates and trying to see what it means, and you would not believe the amount of places and people I listened to.
Well, criminality. Remember, Lori's like, well, let's up their pain a little bit and lower their pain tolerance. And then she's like, well, not until the car ride's over. Basically, those are my words. But I mean,
that's basically exactly what she freaking said. That's almost word for word what she said. She's the worst.
Oh my gosh. She said, I'm covering Melanie P. and Brandon's case from the top. I cannot wait. Because how did she get I don't understand. Especially
none
with
of us
Lori being charged. Yeah. With Brandon. How is Melanie not charged? Tell me that.
Well, we didn't, the public, because we're not privy to certain stuff, right? I won't even say I was not aware because all I saw were the interviews with Melanie BP. That's what I call her because, she doesn't change her name. I have not forgotten Melanie. I see you.
Me neither. She said
I can't with her.
She said we can pick her brain anytime. I cannot wait. I really want to do that. I think that.
Yes, absolutely. So I remember watching her interviews and stuff, and it never sat right with me. Right, the things that she was saying, it just didn't. There was something missing, but I didn't know how much was missing and how involved she really was and which we never do. We don't know how much somebody knows until it's presented. And those text messages, when they were doing the reading of those text messages, I was like, no, ma'am. You are up to your eyeballs in it. And I paid careful attention to the things that they didn't remember. And this is what really stood out with all of the co-conspirators, in my opinion, with their testimony. Their lapses in memory all came at the exact same times in their stories. They all didn't remember the same things. Mm-hmm. That's not how memory works. Because Allie and I, we talk all the time about a great many things. And when we talk about true crime and we're talking about a specific cases we have both covered, trials we have both covered, right, or watched. and I will remember something that Allie won't remember, and Allie will remember something that I don't remember, and we watch the exact same thing. That's not how memory works.
That is so true, which I love that, because you see things that I'll miss, and that
yes, that's why we confer, because I love your perspective, especially when I was ready to be so angry at Leticia's attorneys thinking they lied to Dr. Lewis, and then they busted out the email, and I was like, oh snap, I got to take that back.
Yes, what a mess that was. Oh my God.
That was a nightmare.
Krisha, I think that you're doing an awesome job. I really do applaud you for standing up and speaking out for your family, because I would want to do the same thing too, but I know it's not easy. So I think you're doing awesome, and keep going.
You are doing an awesome job. I think that what's important about what you're doing is, when we watch trials, I talked about this the other night, the trial is all about, unfortunately, it's very little about the actual victim. It's mainly about the defendant, because they're the one that's on trial, and it's the state's job to prove them guilty. So we hear the most about them, and we don't really get to hear about the victims so much until it's time for victim impact statements. And even then, but I feel like I know more about Charles, JJ, and Tylee, and that's because of your channel.
Yeah.
Who they were before they were this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I let you guys go, I wanted to show you this article. I saw this just came out the other day with Kohberger, and it says, let me just read part of it. So, a grad student who attended Washington State with Brian alleges that he treated female professors disrespectfully and made a female classmate uncomfortable with repeated advances. According to ABC News, a grad student, not a unnamed source, but a grad student from Washington State University, where Kohberger attended prior to his arrest, said during an interview on the King Road killings, that Kohberger not only flirted with the female student to the point of making her feel uneasy, but also became angry over minor class issues. His face would turn bright red, and he clenched his fist until his knuckles were white. The student, who was in the same program as Kohberger, said, "Ooh, I haven't seen that yet. ABC's The King Road Killings." It said he would make the entire class uncomfortable by interrupting female professors and skipping out on their classes. He also kept his office door closed, and when the policy was it was supposed to remain open, and he had a lack of respect for people's boundaries. That was apparent when he repeatedly asked the female student out and kept staring at her despite her rejecting his advances. Other students made a point of never leaving them alone together, the grad student said.
Wow. I mean, I think that he doesn't respect boundaries is like an understatement. Like, I'm not surprised to hear that. I mean, he unalived 4 people. Like, clearly he doesn't respect boundaries. He seems like an incredibly intense person. His words are very deliberate, and his gaze is very intense. He sits very stiff. It's very different than what Chad does. So Chad has mastered the art of, when I'm sitting in the courtroom, I'm not giving you any face, right? He just sits there. It's like completely blank.
Yes, he
does. That is not an easy thing to do at all. And perhaps, Chad, if you spent more time working on your theories instead of ripping off season 2 of Supernatural and bits and pieces from Harry Potter, you would have worked out that nothing you said made sense in your belief system. But that's neither here nor there. But Brian, he's not blank in the same way that Chad is. He's very intense, very, stiff.
He is very intense. I don't know. They have such different kind of vibes, but similar in ways. But seeing Chad sit in the courtroom, make sure you read the comment on the screen from Krisha. Thank you, Angelina. Thank you so
let
much.
me see.
Oh, wait. Oh, shit. I just took it off. Hold on. Let me
Make sure you read it, and I'm going to take it away.
Sorry. It is past.
Aw.
I know.
Thank you, difficult research. Thank you for doing that. Really, thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
So what do you guys think about this? I have to say, when I hear an article, at least they're naming where this person came from. They've spoken on an interview on television. These unnamed source articles, I just don't put much faith in them at all. Unless it comes from court records, I just don't believe it 100%. However, I wouldn't be surprised that this is true. But it's very freaky that he repeatedly asked the female student out and kept staring at her despite her rejecting his advances, to the point where the other students would not leave them alone. That freaks me out. I don't know.
I'm curious about that because I'm always, you'd think there would have been like some type, I'm curious about what his, like if there were complaints. Do you know what I mean? If he faced, like, I know they weren't, going to bring him back the next semester or whatever because of, he's not a people person, obviously. But I'm just curious if there was any formal complaint.
Yeah.
It makes me sad if there wasn't, because I think that kind of behavior should be reported. I'm because I would imagine that Brian Koberger is not the only teacher's assistant that's ever done something like that. And not all teacher's assistants that behave that way go on to be unalivers. But it just makes me sad to think that we still are in a place where victims are afraid to report.
I completely agree. And it's sad because I guarantee you it's happening way more than we know about.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Melissa, about these reports about his behavior and kind of that kind of thing?
I really don't trust anything after everything, and that doesn't mean that it's not possibly true, but I don't take it for anything. Like, I don't take, it's just, okay, note it in the back of my head, but I don't rely on that whatsoever because I've seen so many news sources get it wrong, and yeah, so I just skeptical and I'm just reserving my judgments.
See, this is my thing with this. I need to see this show that this person was interviewed on, see if they show their face, things like that. I still don't give it 100%, but I might give it a little more credibility or believe it a little more if we know who it is, we know they were connected. They're, when it's all these unnamed sources, I'm telling you, many of the reports that came out in the beginning, like you said, they just were not true, period.
No.
It's unfortunate because I think part of the reason there are so many unnamed sources is because there's such an interest in this case. And let's just say it how it is. There are some unscrupulous people in the world. Like, that's not a surprise, right? I mean, I think we all were aware of that before this case. But I think that the people that are speaking out don't want to be hounded. They don't want to become fodder for social media. And let's be honest, I can't really blame them. No. What did the surviving roommates, what was their crime? They were there and survived. They were unharmed. That's their crime. And look what's happened based on a partial statement. They were interviewed multiple times. That's in the PCA too. You think that they were interviewed multiple times and all that the one said was the one or two sentences about bushy eyebrows?
Couple of words are only in quotes. That's it. Just a couple of words. That's
right.
It. Exactly.
That's my point. And look what's happened to her. Look what they've done to her.
Well, you have it's not just the day though. You have people, and this is again, here's the sources thing of why I'm skeptical, is you have people who go on, to YouTube or whatever, and they are speaking out like they have this inside information and taking them and surrounding all of this drug hub theory.
Right.
And, this was it. I don't even want to repeat it because I hate
don't repeat it.
And people believe it, and people tend to believe it because sometimes there's like a little nugget of truth in a story, just a little nugget. But
Right.
when there's that little nugget of truth, people think everything else is truthful. And I think people are so, there are holes in what this case so far. That doesn't mean that there's always going to be holes. They could very easily fill the holes and it'll make all sense. But people are taking that and filling the holes with whatever narrative that they want, and people are so desperate for answers that they're just running with it. And when I say, like, I'm genuinely concerned, especially with this other footage, because I know that partial of the murders were caught on that, and that does not belong on YouTube, and I'm really scared that it's going to get leaked out.
Well, it will, and it will eventually end up on YouTube by virtue of the trial, but that's very, very different.
Yes, it's different
than, somebody just random putting it out way before the trial.
Right.
I'm concerned about this situation as well. I just the whole thing is, I think because I think what's part of the problem or issue in this case is that there doesn't seem to be an immediate connection or a very clear-cut motive, right? The motive clearly was to unalive at least one person. We know that for sure, right? I mean, he didn't just go in there to play Chutes and Ladders, and then it just, wasn't, there wasn't a fight or something, that there wasn't a situation that escalated. It wasn't like a road rage gone wrong and followed, or any of that. There seems to be no connection. And the randomness of it. This is what, these are the kinds of crimes that really shake people, because we don't have any answers. But I would encourage everybody. I know it's difficult, but we've got to be patient, and we have to let the process.
Yeah.
We're going to get the answers. Are we going to get every single answer? No. We didn't get every single question answered in the Stout trial. I didn't get every single question answered in the Lori Daybell trial, or the George Wagner IV trial. There's, I've watched 11 billion trials in my lifetime.
That covered gets stuck in my head, Jen, because
covered a handful of them, and I still have questions.
Right.
You guys know I've been studying a case for 20-something years now.
Yeah.
And I still have questions.
Yeah.
Criminality says we don't know that a Chutes and Ladders game wasn't found. That's presumptuous.
Oh, you're right. They strike me as Candyland people more than Chutes and Ladders. That's just me.
People are making shit up just out of nowhere, Lisa. Like Rabbit Hole Survivor says, one person, I don't know who, I haven't heard this, but a creator is insinuating that the victims had sugar daddies. I mean,
oh, bless it.
Who cares? What does that matter? Like, I don't know.
The other day I was watching sorry, Allie. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I'm done. I just wish that people would wait for the trial and stop the nonsense.
Yes. I was watching this thing on News Nation, and they were covering, and they said they were going to start doing this, cases of missing people that weren't getting a whole lot of attention but needed to get attention.
Yeah.
And it's late for me, so and this was a case that I wrote down. I just don't have that with me right this second, because I wanted to look into it. But one of the things that struck me is an interview with the missing girl's young woman, I should say, her mother and her grandmother. And I believe it was her mother that said, yes, my daughter did drugs. So does that mean that she deserves to be unalived or taken? That she is less than, because,
And I said that,
and
Long Island too. It's like, if these people target victims who, and when I say less likely to be missed, I'm not talking about emotionally versus someone, who may be homeless, be an addict, maybe a sex worker, right? Versus a teacher, where if you don't show up Monday morning, you're going to be noticed very quickly. But people suddenly equate that to not being as a life is a life is a life, and they're all equal to one another. But unfortunately, a lot of these cases, when you find out, oh, it's a sex worker, or, someone homeless, suddenly they don't value it as much. And that's a real problem, and it's sad.
Oh, yes, it is. I was talking about that with Portland. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. People target them because, their families are used to them being gone for weeks at a time and shit like that. That's just the
Right.
truth. But is that what? So the Gilgo Beach, the Rex guy, he targeted people like that too.
Yeah, they were all sex
Yes.
workers, and then
Oh wow.
That's how we met him.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Up until a week before he was arrested, Allie, he was still contacting sex workers. Okay, and that's why there was such a, we need to make a move now. We need to get that grand jury going. We need to make a move now because there's possible other victims out there, and he's still searching. And he's now the prime suspect for 4 sex workers in their, mid-20s, the same MO as this, that were found and recovered in Atlantic City outside, I think it was a hotel or motel, I'm not sure. But that's what he does, right? Because less likely for people to notice if someone, one of them turns up missing. And it's sad. It's just
Well, see, it's not just that they're less likely to notice because there's, I talked about this, there's a serial killer in Dallas and he was called the eye killer because he would remove the victim's eyes.
Oh, Jesus.
And but they were all sex workers. That's who he targeted. And they were missed immediately by the other girls. And the other girls would go and they would report them. And the police didn't give it a lot of attention. And this beat cop turned detective, this female beat cop turned detective was familiar with these girls. And so when she was assigned to the case, she made it her business to go and speak to the girls and say, listen, have you run into and this is her words, a John who's done, who's made you uncomfortable or who got violent and you escaped? Because for every victim that didn't escape, there's usually at least one victim that does.
Right.
And it's Samuel Little too. He had a victim that survived as well. So and got away. So they're marginalized, they're missed, but nobody takes it seriously. Right. And that has to change.
It does. You're absolutely right.
It does. Even the police, if it's an addict or a prostitute, it's almost like they're like, one less person I have to deal with, or you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, I hate it. And Angie, I'm sorry, Melissa, real quick, let me say thank you, Angie, so much. I appreciate that. I was getting ready to say it, my computer died. That's why I came back in like this. But yeah, thank you. I so appreciate that. Okay, go ahead, Melissa. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I was just going to say, similar, like you said, to the Oregon, at first they were not taking it seriously, no connections, and you didn't see that traction the same way that other cases get. And it's really just a peculiar thing to think about of how some cases get too much attention, right? Like even with Idaho, wait, overboard, like just wait. And
hyper focused.
Yes. And then other cases, there are families begging with, just like the Oregon, they were begging, please help. I need some type of media attention.
Yes.
Right.
Which determines how it's peculiar. Like, how does it get determined which ones catch on and not?
It's so sad, Melissa. That bothers me all the time because it's so true. And you'll see these families that are like, number one, you'll see when they're getting too much attention, they're like, just leave us alone and give us our privacy. Just stop. And then you'll see on the opposite end, families that are like, please listen. They would do anything for just like 2 minutes on the news or something,
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I can't imagine being in either situation. I can imagine it being horrible no matter what. But it's just peculiar how it's either one or the other. It's never usually a middle ground.
I think it depends on the victim themselves, because I think what happens is when it makes the news, right, there's usually look how impassioned Allie and I work and Crime Curious are still really covering Gannon, right? Because there's something about Gannon that each one of us identified with. For Allie, it was that he's around the same age as her son. For me, it was that he was a preemie. My oldest son was a preemie. And then he is dark hair and big brown eyes like my youngest son. And then, I can't remember what Crime Curious was, but she had one too. Everybody has something. And I think what happens is, I think it depends on the way the story is told by the media, right? The more the media humanizes a victim, the more the general public are apt to identify with that victim. It's about the way the story is presented to us. And that's just human nature, you know. And I think if the news would present the cases the same way, then I think we would see a different outcome in the amount of interest, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I said that right.
Something's got to change all around.
Well, yeah.
And Melissa, you were also very like with it, Dan. In that case, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I think none of us will ever be done with it fully because, well, one of the things you don't know why.
Yeah. There's still a lot of, I think we're all going to still obsess over the candle, you know, the not having that full closure of how exactly out. But yeah, sometimes you walk away, but see, the difference is like with Letitia, you're walking away not having all of your answers, but confident in knowing like what led, you know, like what played out. You know it was her. So the only concern about it is people walking with not having all their answers and being concerned that this might not be the person.
Right. I think it's too early for us to be able to say that he might not be the right person.
Absolutely. Listen, they have 51 terabytes. They're pursuing the death penalty. The way I see it is if he's guilty, the evidence is going to show that. If he's not guilty, the evidence is going to show that, you know, like, so just wait.
And that's a good point too, because, and then we got to get off of here because I know Allie's getting tired, but that's another problem. And this is another reason why they're being so tight-lipped about it, because not only do they have to get like 14 jurors, right? Because they have to have alternates. But the jurors that they do seat have to be death penalty jurors. Means that they would be willing to consider the death penalty. And that weeds people out on, you know, from the get-go anyway.
Right.
So the pool has now, just by virtue of it being a death penalty case, now the pool has already, you know, gotten smaller just because of that element. Then you have all the other elements, you know, and there are people that don't want to sit on a high profile case because the truth of the matter is you're asked as a juror and you take an oath to base your opinion on what's presented in that courtroom. And let's just say that the jury, after they hear everything from both sides, decides that Brian Kohberger, they vote not guilty, right? How they don't want to sit on a trial that has so much publicity, and they end up acquitting the person because they don't want the backlash. We've watched trials that have been streamed recently where judges have inadvertently said a juror's name.
Right. And it was even in Letitia trial, they accidentally panned into the jury.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God.
It happens.
In the Border Patrol, they just gave out like, okay, so in the Border Patrol trial, he had a wife. He cheated on his wife and had a baby, but his wife had their 2 kids. She's still out here living her life. She's a victim of everything, truly. Yes, she had no part in it. Her world was upside down. They freaking blasted her phone number and stuff in the court. And his lawyers were like, are you serious? Like, they basically said that the media, they tried to argue the fact that because of different things with the media, that he didn't get a fair trial and he should get another trial. They didn't go for it, but it was interesting because it was going too far.
They tried to blame YouTube. YouTube got blamed at one point.
Yeah, she was like, I've been saving all the YouTube comments, but there's so many, I can't save them all. You know, our life is at danger. There's YouTubers that are trying to figure out where we live, what we look like. This is the defense. And I believe it because people were very curious about who she was.
Yes, and, they were.
So, I don't know.
Especially in the beginning, because because she wasn't speaking and she was co-counsel. And it was people didn't know that that's who she was, which they honestly, the only people that are allowed to sit at the defense table are the defendant and counsel. You can't just be bringing, like Allie, if I were, God forbid, ever a defendant in a trial, I couldn't be like, hey, can my homegirl Allie sit next to me? Because they'd be like, no.
Yeah.
But people they were like, who is that? But she was canoodling with him a little bit like Letitia and her lawyer. So can my homegirl Allie sit with me?
I need a friend. Allie was my trial buddy, and now she's going to be my trial buddy again.
Well, I hope Crumb Curious is okay. And I'm so glad that you came up, Melissa. And yeah. Okay, so I know that Jen's doing Show Business. It starts Monday. Melissa, are you following that?
No, actually, I don't.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard Shabiz. I've been hearing it, yeah, but I have not looked into it at all, so I don't even know what it's about.
I think you should. I think you would be amazed. You would. Mm-hmm. You should watch. Tell her what she did to him, because I know she decapitated him, cut his body, told his mom. What exactly did she do?
The one who attacked someone in the courtroom.
Yes, she attacked her attorney. But he's no longer her attorney, for obvious reasons. But she decapitated him, and she was she dismembered him. She left parts in a bucket in the basement of his mom's house. That's where they met. She's, but this is what's going to be interesting about this trial for me personally, because I've never seen this happen. So what happens with Taylor is she has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So in the beginning, the jury is going to decide whether she is guilty or not guilty. And then they move into the insanity part of the trial. It's very, very, I haven't seen it done this way, and it's interesting to me.
Look at Angel's comment. She said, don't take Allie. She'll waive your right to a fair trial.
She can sit. She just can't talk.
Melissa, I said that on accident earlier. I was like, yeah, but Brian Koberger, he can't, he either has to waive his right to a fair trial or. That's funny. Or don't get to stay or whatever. But Melissa, I think you would be fascinated with this case because there's different aspects. It was quite gruesome, but she have a fascination with Dahmer or something like that too?
She did, and she does. And here's the other thing. I think after listening to now, I believe she's 100% competent to stand trial.
You do,
but I'm very yes. Oh yeah, because the bar for competent to stand trial is very low. You basically have to know what a judge is, what you're being charged with, and you have to be able to aid in your own defense. And I've seen her speak to her attorneys, so she's able. But this is the element that got her hung up, whether competent or not. She's fine as long as she takes her medication. The problem is that Taylor has a history of refusing, since she's been arrested, of refusing to take her medication. And then obviously, the longer she goes without it, the more unmanageable her mental health becomes, her symptoms become. And so then, it's problematic. But I'm very curious about the situation with this not guilty by reason of insanity, because she has a long history of mental illness, unlike Leticia Stout, who made it up. One, she had anxiety because to get out of a job. Yeah, I know, we're all shocked that Leticia lied again.
I'm gonna get stuck in a rabbit hole tonight, but you know what, I need something else to look at because I've just been so into the Idaho, and I'm like, but you can't really.
You can just walk away sometimes, Melissa. It's good for you.
No, absolutely.
And
you can't
this
choose,
trial,
at least for me, you can't choose what pulls you, and so I could try, but I can't choose what pulls me right in.
Right. I know what you mean. But I think because this trial starts Monday, and I'm going to be doing some recaps of it similarly to Gannon. Jen's streaming it and I think there's a lot of interest in it. I think that Yeah, I really think you might like it. It'll be fun.
I'm
Oh,
really into
Missy's
it.
Angels.
I get off.
Missy's Angel said it happened 10 minutes from her.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. I will
Search and
say that.
Rescue.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, I would love to have you up sometime, anytime. You let me know if you want to, like, come up for a few minutes. If you want to come up and do a show, and I don't know, yeah, I would love to do that, because I asked, does anybody want to join? At the same time, Aries asked, does anybody want pizza? People were going, yes, Aries, me. And she said, me. And I'm like, does she want pizza? It was a panel. And then she said her internet messed up. So,
Allie. And panel. P squared. Come on.
so yeah, P squared. But yeah, so anyways, okay, so go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry. You remember what you were saying?
Yes. I think what's going to be interesting about this trial is, I will say for her, that her new attorney has a very different approach, excuse me, than her former attorney, and he's much more like he's more sort of in your face about he's more of an aggressive defense attorney than her previous defense attorney. And I'm very curious the case that he's going to present for the particularly for the not guilty by reason of insanity. It's a little different than that. It's like it's in Wisconsin. It's not guilty by disease or mental defect, I think is the term that they use. But it's essentially the same thing.
Okay, so I was about to end it. KA mentioned that there's a missing girl and hold on, let me get back. This beautiful girl is still missing from my hometown. It's a very crazy case. And I said, who is it? And she said, who is it?
Lauren Dumolo.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that. Want me to come up and explain, or your next live? I wonder if I should do now or later, because it is late, but what do you guys think? Because
I think you should do a live that's totally devoted to that, where you can make a thumbnail so that, because what if somebody is scrolling through it, right? And they're like, I don't know if I want to hear what Jen Lou has to say, right? Because I'm in the title. And just people do that. It's not offensive to me, but what if they're like, oh man, I don't want to hear that friggin' Jen Lou. I'm tired of her shit, right? So they scroll past it, and then they miss this information. Do you know what I mean?
I would listen to you 11 billion times.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Melissa, when it says Jen Lou's on, we click. That's when we want to.
Well, because you're so educated, but you also, at least with me, with my personality, you are very grounding, and it's like you make sense, and so I appreciate. And you have your sense of it's very.
I appreciate that, you guys.
Yeah.
So KA, just email me, or you can find me on Facebook at Allie Erickson, ALLIE.
I talked to her. I'll put you guys in contact.
Awesome. Okay. And then search and rescue, you know how to get in touch with me. And then we will do that. She said she wants to talk about Harmony Montgomery and the problems in the system. Know that she she has a lot to say and some important stuff. I think it'll be fun.
Yes, you need a whole live devoted to your because yes, I want to hear all of those things. And listen, anything that you send to Allie, I will share on my page as well, because let's get the word out. I'm a firm believer in that people don't know what they don't know, and they might have seen something and are wholly unaware that they actually did see something. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So maybe one post, they just,
yeah, that would be awesome.
Memory.
You're right. That's true. And you know what? Even if I've said this before, but the live that I did with the least people, there was only 35 people or something tops. And it was a missing person, Harry Milligan. He's still missing right now. He's been missing for almost 40 years. And there was literally somebody watched it, with just a very small amount of people. There was one person that watched it that was local, and they had like a diving business, and they agreed to help search some of the ponds and stuff at one point. So
See?
yeah, you're right. And that's so, I don't know, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I want all the details. If we're going to do a whole thing, I think we should just do it justice and do it right. Put everything.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you guys came up. I love you guys. I love your channels. I hope people that haven't subscribed do, and Crime Curious, and all the other channels that we dropped during the live. Yeah, and I appreciate it. It was fun, good conversation. It's almost damn 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know. I'm way past my bedtime. The old biddy committee is. I'm gonna be in trouble.
You're gonna be late for bingo tomorrow.
You're gonna make me oversleep for bingo and bocce ball.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for being here in the chat. And thank you, Jen and Melissa. And I'm going to let you guys, I love bingo. I'm going to let you guys go. David said great chemistry. That is so true. There's some people, it just happens. I don't know. You can't make it happen. But yeah, very cool. But anyways, all right. I'm going to let you guys go. Have a good night and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.